Welcome back to Nowhere Near Done. I found today's guest, Bea, in an Instagram comment section. The post was asking women to name something they had accomplished that they were proud of, and Bea wrote about navigating perimenopause, leaving the corporate career she had spent decades building, finding love later in life, and deciding with that new love to buy a boat and sail the world. And I immediately thought, if that isn't a Nowhere Near Done story, I don't know what is. So I reached out and invited her to be on the podcast, and thankfully and graciously, she said yes. Bea joined me from the boat she and her partner Mark are preparing to sail from the UK to New Zealand. We talked about what happens when the life you worked so hard to build no longer feels like the life you want, the loneliness that can come with perimenopause, and how much we need other people as we navigate this stage. We also talked about asking for and accepting help, redefining success, and recognizing that what feels like an ending may actually be the beginning of something completely unexpected. I loved our conversation and could have kept talking to Bea much longer. Here's Bea. Thank you so much for joining me today, and tell us, where are you joining from?
Thanks so much for having me, Sara. We are in a tiny, beautiful town in the south coast of Wales called Neyland.
Oh my
And
goodness.
we've been here over a year fixing the boat, and we're finally in the boatyard. And we're finally back on the water, which is very exciting.
But it's so exciting. Let's just get into it. I want to go back to the beginning of this particular part of your story.
Yeah.
You were going through perimenopause, and that threw a wrench in things. Let's talk about, what were you doing and what were some of those fun symptoms that started popping up for you?
Yeah. So I was at the top of my game, Sara. I was working in technology consulting. I had been in this company for 25 years. I've thrived. I had just been promoted to the next level of managing director. Like, I felt like I was on top of the world. I just bought a brand new house. I felt invincible.
Yeah.
um, and then it always feels to me, and it might not be, it feels to me like this happened overnight. And one day I woke up, Sara, and I didn't recognize who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't recognize all the work that I had done for 25 years. Like, I felt like an imposter. I always say it's like imposter syndrome on steroids. But it was this disconnection, and it just threw me off, and it really felt like it happened overnight. Um, I suddenly couldn't sleep, and I woke up I was waking up at 3 a.m. Things that were normal for me to do at work were suddenly a challenge. I would cry everywhere, like everywhere. I would cry in the shower. I'd be watching Formula One and I'd cry because poor thing lost a race or won a race, or, it made no sense. I just couldn't recognize this new me. And I thought I was losing my mind, Sara.
Yeah. Well, that is so interesting you mentioned that, because I have other friends, women friends, who are so accomplished and have done so many incredible things, and entering into midlife, I feel that so much, that imposter syndrome. Why do we do that? And I wonder if that is a part of this whole
It
hormonal
is.
shift. After that particular experience, what
Yeah.
did you do? Did you see a doctor? How did you correlate that it was actually part of perimenopause, or
Yeah.
did you even make that connection at that
No.
point?
So, to be completely honest with you, I didn't know what perimenopause was at that
Okay.
stage. I
Yeah.
had no idea. I just thought, I am going crazy. This is beyond anything I can explain. And I grew up in a family of doctors, and I was like, I've never heard of anything like this. I've never seen anything like this. Like, I did not know what this was. So I went to the first doctor, and I said, look, this is happening to me. I don't know where it's coming from. And of course they did blood tests, and the blood tests came back, and they were perfect. And she was like, no, take some vitamins. There's nothing wrong with you. You're A-okay. Your ovaries are great. You're ovulating, so it can't be menopause. You're 44. You're way too young. Your labs are great. That's not it. You're probably stressed. You have a high demanding job. So I left crying, but convinced that she was right, Sara, mainly because of that trust that I grew up with. My doctors were my family. So If they said something, I'd be like, yeah, sure. There's no reason to not trust them. And then something happened because I trusted this so much. I thought, well, I need to start making changes because this is no way to live. Like, I can't continue to live like this.
Yeah.
So what can I do? Because what can be going wrong? And I started to find things maybe where there weren't things.
Okay.
I changed jobs. Same career, but I changed jobs. I left this company after 23 years because something happened. I suddenly had a new boss. He was a bit of a bully. But I had dealt with bullies for 23 years. This one just felt like, oh my God, I can't deal with this one. So let me change that. I changed jobs. Maybe I just need to be around more people. And I lived outside of London, so a little isolated. So I thought, okay, let me move into London. So that's more vibrant, more people. I'll try that. Then I said, you know what? I've been prioritizing my job my entire life. How about you prioritize finding the right partner? And I did that. And I found Mark, thank God. But I changed everything that I could change outside of me just because I couldn't find an explanation inside of me.
Yeah.
And then as the years passed and nothing helped, and I mean, I saw a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a therapist, 2 coaches, and a trauma expert because I was convinced that there was something unresolved from my childhood that I had not dealt with.
I know that this is not an uncommon experience for women. We're finally having these conversations more, and doctors are catching up. Tell me what happened next.
So at the same time, because I couldn't find anything that I could fix that would make me better, I started researching. And I would read books about menopause and listen to podcasts and check in with experts. And I couldn't see how this was not it. I didn't see any other answer except it had to be perimenopause. So what we agreed, what we thought we could do, Mark helped me through this, was, okay, so we're going to change doctors until we find a doctor that understands this, because it can't be. It can't be like this. And it's not easy in the UK to change doctors, like schools in the US. You have to be in a certain area. But I did. I changed a couple of times until I found one that said, oh, this is perimenopause and you need to be on HRT yesterday. Yeah. But by then it had been 4 years. It took 4 years. And
oh my goodness.
I recently said this out loud for the first time and Mark was surprised, but it was dark. Like, I was in a dark place and I thought, I can't live like this. Like, I don't think I can continue like this. This has been a long process. And now there's this need for women to have these answers and understand. And there's so much information out there in the ecosystem. And doctors are just like, I can just tell you what I have in this guideline that the British Menopause Society published 10 years ago. That's all I have to go on. Yeah. They don't know better.
From there, that is sort of the catalyst to you deciding to make some pretty major changes. How did that go once you decided to take on this new adventure? How did that happen?
So I think what happened, and I'm still convinced that this is what happened to me, is that all the lies that I had been telling myself throughout my life, suddenly my body couldn't tolerate them anymore. So I was married to my job and my job was enough. And the right person would come at some point, or I can take care of my health later, or I don't need to sleep, or everything will be better after this project, or everything would be better after this promotion. This immense drive that I had to be successful professionally sort of like started crumbling right in front of me. And the career that I had built was no longer fulfilling. It was no longer something that filled my heart. And so although I'm not happy with the way it happened and having to go through those dark years and not being diagnosed, it did lead to the absolutely best outcome that I could have hoped for, because it made me see, how different, what was it really that I wanted, what was fulfilling and what was meaningful to me. And it had nothing to do with that job, nothing.
Wow.
And if it weren't for perimenopause and going through that, I don't think I would have arrived here.
Mm.
So I come from Venezuela. That's where I'm originally from. So the ocean is a big part of my life. Always has been. And I am obsessed with traveling. I've traveled now to over 60 countries. And I found Mark, who's actually traveled to 80, and he's equally obsessed with the ocean. And and he is a sailor. And when we first got together, we always thought, let's do this big adventure. Let's do something grand. But of course, work was busy and everything was busy. So we didn't know what it was. And suddenly this happened, and he sees me in this state, and he's ready for a change in his career as well. And he said, well, let's do it now. Why would we wait until we're 70 or 80 to do this? Let's do it now. We're healthy. We can make it. And we went through a lot of going through, can we make it? Is this reasonable? Is this financially possible? All of those questions that you need to go through. But we said, yeah, let's do it now. Let's do it now. I desperately needed a change. He was looking for something grand to do. So yeah, we thought that this would be the best way.
So you bought a boat, you're fixing the boat up, getting it ready to go. And then do you guys have a plan, or you'll figure it out?
So it's more complicated than I ever thought. Buying a boat in itself is complicated. So I think we must have watched, I don't know, YouTube every night after work, and then menopause research, and then YouTube research for boats. And what kind of boat do we need? Because Mark is a sailor, but the both of us, and I'm not a sailor. So what would be the most comfortable in the ocean and long passages? And so we researched a lot, and I think it took us a year to find the boat that we wanted. And so we bought the boat a couple of years ago, I think, and brought it down from the west coast of England, almost close to Scotland, all the way down to where we are now in Wales. And it's been, a year and something. We had to put the flat up for rent in London and sorting all of that out to actually then move onto the boat permanently. And since we did that last November, we've just been working like crazy on fixing it and getting it ready. Like, for example, it didn't have solar panels. And if we're going to live on the boat, then we need to be off grid and anchor and have access to electricity. So all of those things we've been doing little by little. I'm learning that work on the boat never ends. I had no idea. It never ends. So we're back in the water, but there's always things that we need to be doing, and little by little. So that's what we're doing now. And we have a big plan, which is to sail from the UK to New Zealand. That's where Mark is from. And but we're taking our time, because I'm obviously, I need to do a lot of work to prepare. And I know a lot about fixing boats, but I have to learn a lot about sailing boats and be comfortable with night passages and crossing oceans and being able to sail on my own, because if Mark can't, or he's sick or whatever, then I need to be able to do it all on my own. So all of that we're planning to do next. So before we do a big crossing, the first crossing would be the Atlantic. So before we do that, I think we'll just stay in the Med for a little bit and figure some things out, make sure I feel 100% comfortable before we go and do anything big. And so that's the big plan.
That's incredible. You had your love of the ocean, and you have had your love of travel. But earlier on in your lifetime, did you ever foresee this being your life at this stage?
Absolutely not. I recently saw a friend, and she's like, I never heard you ever talk about a sailboat, Bea. So what is this? No, never. And I don't know if it was the desperation of getting out of that place where I was. That could have been a contributor, or the amazingness of having a huge adventure with Mark and you know, the beauty of finding Mark late in my life and what all that meant. I'm not sure where it came from, but it arrived, and I'm happy it arrived. And I saw it, and I took it, and I ran with it.
Let's talk about Mark. Statistically, divorce is higher in this phase of life, this perimenopause menopause phase. I have many friends who are in this stage and who are finding themselves single again unexpectedly, or perhaps with their priorities in a different place, and so they're single for other reasons. But you're also not the first woman that I have talked to who has found really incredible partnership later in life. And I want to explore that a little bit, how that has changed your trajectory, having that kind of support. What has that meant, and how do you think that that has helped?
Yeah. So Mark met me when I was in the middle of perimenopause. How he stuck around is still baffling to me because this roller coaster is not an easy ride. But he stuck around and he helped research and he listened to podcasts and would listen about me ranting and all of that. Now that I've studied and researched so much, that I've been through it, I can understand why so many divorces happen at this stage in life. Like, if I couldn't explain to myself what I was going through, how would I find the words to explain it to somebody else? I couldn't. And through all the crying, I couldn't find the words to explain to Mark what was happening. And so it was only, I think for us, it was more through, finding the science. So reading books about what your brain goes through in menopause and the studies and what happens when you do an MRI to a menopausal brain. And so all of that gave us kind of like a little bit more understanding. And so that helped us so much. It is shocking to me how many people now being on social media, how many women don't have support and are just judged at home or reduced to low libido, and that's all it is, and that's all that I care about. And it is distressing. And I know I am incredibly lucky, and I'm very grateful that I have a partner that has been with me throughout the journey. And I think early on he figured out, look, this is at the core of who you are. This is not something in the surface. This is rearranging sort of like your DNA in a way. So this is going to be monumental. So yeah, it makes such a difference to have that support at home there.
Yeah. Well, and then in addition to this great adventure, you guys have launched the social media and the website and this advocacy. Tell me more about how that evolved and where that's going.
Yeah. So I think once the anger passed, because the other thing we didn't talk about is that my doctor understood it was perimenopause and got me on HRT, but then comes years of adjusting doses and, finding out the right balance. It's not like HRT is magic, and I still had to do tens of lifestyle changes. And, but once I was in a better place, then the anger shifted and it became, why did this catch me off guard? Why does a 44-year-old successful woman that thinks she knows everything, why is she caught off guard by this? How did nobody tell me? How did this just sneak underneath the radar? Like, I couldn't understand it. So the first thing I thought was like, I need to tell people. I need women to know that if they're in their 40s and something feels off and all of a sudden confidence is out the door, or anxiety or sleep, or it could be this. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but you might want to go check something or listen to something, or just to better understand. So the idea of the Pause Hub was for it to be a hub, and it's a collection of books, of experts, of podcasts, of facts that we found incredibly interesting. So women, once they have, or partners, it's for both. If they start to feel somewhat, something's not right and I'm not feeling like myself, can go and see, okay, I can go get this book that explains this, or I can listen to this podcast that explains what the brain is going through, or this expert is all about, building muscle and how to build it right for women at this stage. And so it has that compilation of resources that really helped us.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought it's the least that we could do is share what helped us.
Yeah.
So the idea is that we're able to keep growing that and adding more resources, and obviously more books come out and more information, more studies. Everything is developing so quickly in this area. So we're hoping that we can keep it up to date so women can always find something that can reassure them, or at least give them hope that they're not crazy. There is things that we can do to feel better, and you don't have to accept feeling like shit, basically.
Absolutely. It's so appreciated. And it's the thing that I feel is so important for us women. And the reason why I named this podcast Nowhere Near Done is this idea, we've been sold that as women, our value is tied to our youth in a way, our looks or our ability to have children. But there is so much more at this point in life. Now we're in this place where we have all of this life experience and we have wisdom. And now we've gone through and are going through this crazy transition with, our bodies. There's still so much left. That's what I love about what you're doing, this great big adventure. And it feels like you're just at the beginning of this next chapter.
When I think of what comes next, I feel first, I don't think I'm done with my perimenopause journey. I think there's a bit missing. So I'm still advocating for testosterone and trying it and seeing if that helps. So there's still more to do. And that's a big part also of why we are on social media. It's to expose how much you have to do as a woman to get the care that you deserve. Not to frighten everybody, but to give people tools to be able to go and talk to their doctor, or, whatever that looks like. And then there's a component of what's next, which is so exciting, which is the sailing part, but also the pause hub part. Can we reach more women? I sometimes find myself questioning if I'm adding value, if I'm contributing. And Mark always tells me, imagine a stadium full of people and somebody saying something in a tiny little corner, and you just need all these replicators around the stadium for people to get the message. And whenever I get lost a little, he reminds me of that, and this still helps. And when I see comments of women saying, yeah, I'm going through the same thing and I can't believe this is happening. And then I think, okay, no, we still need to keep going. And then this other beautiful component of sailing is just starting. There were dark days, like I told you, Sara, and there's a lot of anger still maybe from how it was handled. But I am so grateful for the stage of my life. I am so grateful that my body can no longer tolerate lies that I used to tell it. I am so grateful that I feel my next chapter is ahead of me. And I don't, if I would have stayed in that corporate, hamster wheel of a life that I had, I would have never, ever gotten here. So yeah, the best is yet to come. And it's such an exciting place to be at 51. It surprises me. But back to your point about how society sees us, there's this gorgeous book that I was reflecting on today. It's called The Slow Moon Climbing, I think, Susan Mattern. And she talks about how menopause was always the design, that the idea was that women would raise beautiful families and strong children that would contribute to society. And once that was over, they return with all that knowledge, with all that expertise, and contribute back to communities and societies with all that knowledge. I think there's something in there about the grandmother hypothesis, they call it. The thing is that we don't want to see ourselves as grandmothers, so that's a shocking term, but it's how women past their reproductive years have so much to contribute after going through all of that, after going through raising families and raising kids and making them useful for society. There's so much knowledge in there. And the book explores historically how that was by design. It's by design. So yeah, it's not the end. It's just the beginning of this new chapter. And this this modern way of seeing menopause. It puts this lens of old, and it's just so outdated, so short-sighted. So every time I feel anything of that sort, I go back to that book and remind myself that this is when I can contribute the most, or the best years are to come.
I love that. The whole idea historically with villages and the family unit, you would have the grandparents and the
Yeah.
grandkids and the parents and everyone living together in these tighter communities, and we lost that. So it's an interesting idea creating these new villages. And how do we do that now? Is that via social media? How do we create that so that our value is still, we're able to impart that value in today's society?
I find that so interesting because all my life I heard it takes a village to raise a kid. Like you grow up hearing that.
Yeah.
And I don't have kids, so I wouldn't even know what
Uh-huh.
moms go through. You guys are superheroes to me, but nobody told me I needed a tribe to go through midlife. And I think that that's a bit of the drive behind the pause. It's like, no, we're going to create this community where women help each other. And it's been, I know there's a lot of nastiness in social media. So far, it's been a beautiful connection and community and women helping women, which is, which has been amazing to watch.
Mhm.
But yeah, nobody told us. It's a
Yeah.
modern society said, no, it's just your nucleus. You don't need anybody.
Yeah.
Indigenous people knew that better than anybody, right? They knew that we needed an entire village. I don't know if you know this, but humans are not the only species to go through menopause. And I find that so fascinating.
I did not know that.
And maybe this is because I'm a sailor, but uh,
Mm.
orcas go through menopause. Beluga whales go through menopause, and narwhals go through menopause. And I think maybe there's potentially a giraffe that they found somewhere. If you
Uh-huh.
look at orcas, for example, grandmothers are in charge of raising those kids. Like that is their role. They are no longer in their reproductive years, so they have to protect the pod. They have an amazing job to do, an important job to do. While mom and dad go hunting, grandmothers are just looking out for the young. So it's so interesting that
Mm.
that the animal world recognizes that as such a key contributor to that pod, to that mini society, and then we fail to see it sometimes.
That is another factor, that whether you have kids or not, women in general, we tend to be the ones that have to manage all of the things, our kids, your home,
Your
and your
parents
work.
or I agree.
Yes, and
Everything.
exactly everything else around you. And if you don't have that source of help outside of yourself, that's why so many women are burning out and
Because
getting
I
to this
think
point.
they've also made us believe that it's a weakness to ask for
Mhm.
help, right?
Mhm.
So if you can't deal with everything, then there's something wrong with you.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
have to do it everything. You have to do everything. And that is, we've taken away that ability to ask for help and to give help and to receive help, and that being a beautiful thing instead of being a character flaw.
I love the idea of finding a tribe because I do think
We need it.
need it. And then again, finding a partner, whether it is a romantic partner or just someone,
Right.
that you can be connected to, that is there to support you. If you could kind of go back in time and talk to your younger self or to women who are entering into this phase, do you have any advice?
Yeah, I think the first thing is take a breather. Like,
Mm.
just take 1 second, right? To recognize everything that you've done and what you've accomplished before you jump to any conclusions about how you're not on top of it, or you're not worth it, or you're not capable, or you're not, you've lost your potential. Just take 2 seconds to just go back and understand everything you've been through.
Mhm.
Um, and then know that it you don't have to feel that way,
Mm.
because it's your hormones talking. It's not you, and it's not a character flaw or anything. It's just your hormones, which is natural at this stage, but we didn't know it because I jumped to conclusions and I thought I was either going crazy or I had to change everything in my life and turn it upside down again.
Right.
And so you can stop for a second and try to find, the reality of what this is. It could be perimenopause. It could be that HRT helps you. It could be that you find a natural solution that helps you. And the other thing I would like people desperately to know is that there are 1 billion women right now going through menopause at some stage, whether it's peri or post, but there are 1 billion women around the world going through this. And so, no, we're not alone. We're just very quiet because historically we've been taught not to talk about this. Nobody is alone. And there's just so much knowledge out there. And I think that's a big part of what we want to do with the pause too, just shine a light on all the stories, because there's a loneliness to menopause that I had never experienced. This loneliness of you don't recognize who you are on the inside. Like, is this a stranger now living and cohabiting with me in my body and my brain that I don't recognize? It's just a special kind of loneliness. And the fact that millions and millions of other women are going through the same thing and absolutely nobody talks about it. Like, I want to see the stories. I want them to be palpable. I want to be able to walk down the street and say, ooh, that's a strong menopausal woman. I want to feel connected. That's what I envision. There's so many amazing women doing amazing things out there at the same time as they're going through this. It's just that nobody says it. That's just such a shame.
It is. One more thing I wanted to ask you, has your definition of success changed? You said you have this extremely high-powered job and you're so driven. How has that changed for you in terms of how you see success now?
That's such a great question. So yeah, success for me before everything meant having the corner office with a view, meant having the Jimmy Choos. It meant, success was being able to take my mom on holidays every year, or, things. It was connected to things, my idea of success. And through this transformation, I figured out I don't need things. So success for me now means I get a good night's sleep, and that's a success. I eat well today, and that's amazing. I get cuddles and hugs every day, and that is everything that I ever wanted. It's no longer attached to things, and that has been such a relief for me. Moving from the flat to the boat meant selling almost, 70% of our things. We have a tiny storage, a 2x2 storage room with key things, and everything else we had to get rid of. And these are all the things that I had worked so hard to have and buy. And that hit me so hard, but it has been so liberating. I live in a tiny space now. I can't fit anything. I can't have luxuries because everything gets dirty. I can't have Jimmy Choos here. That makes no sense. So my definition of success feels like being close to nature and hearing the sea every night. And that is success to me now.
Inspiring. Thank you so much. Let's keep in touch. I would love to have you back. As
we're in the middle of the ocean, maybe.
Yes, exactly. And as you're traveling, and I'd love to hear more of your stories.
Love to.
Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
I especially loved Bea's point that while we're often told it takes a village to raise a child, no one tells us we may need a tribe to get through midlife. So many of us have learned to see asking for help as a weakness, or to believe that if we can't manage everything ourselves, we're somehow failing. But maybe accepting support, sharing what we're going through, and letting other women meet us there is part of how we move through this stage without feeling so alone. I was also fascinated by the book Bea mentioned, The Slow Moon Climbs, The Science, History, and Meaning of Menopause by Susan Mattern, and its exploration of the grandmother hypothesis, this idea that women have always had an important role to play beyond their reproductive years. I'll link the book in the show notes, along with Bea's social media and the Pause Hub, which is an incredible resource for women navigating perimenopause and menopause. I am so grateful one comment on Instagram led me to Bea, and that a conversation between two women half a world apart could feel so connected. I can't wait to see where her next chapter takes her, because she is clearly nowhere near done. She agreed to keep me posted on her journey, and we will definitely have her back to update us all. If this episode made you think of someone who might need to hear it, please share it with her, and I'll see you next time.